All right. Hello, everybody. I think we see our numbers are starting to climb, which is fantastic. Sorry for the slight delay on our end. We had some back-to-back webinars we've been running at Mighty Cause today, so we're all shuffling around to make sure that we could get everything finished in time and kept on schedule. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Natalie. I work at Mighty Cause, the technology platform behind Give Back Tahoe. Really excited to go through this webinar with you today. A couple housekeeping items as we get started. Just a reminder that this is a webinar style format today. So you have your videos off and you are muted just to kind of keep down on background noise, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from you. So if you want to get comfortable with your chat and then the question and answer feature, our hope is that you can use the webinar chat to kind of talk amongst yourselves as we go through the content of the webinar today. Our last webinar that we had together was really interactive, which was a lot of fun on my side because usually it's just me looking at myself and giving information on a screen, but it was really interactive and everybody kind of was able to chat amongst themselves and share some really good feedback with each other. So yes, please use the chat feature. And then if you have any questions as we go through the presentation today, if you could specifically utilize the Q&A feature, that kind of allows us to have one specific place we focus on for questions and one specific place that we're looking to just see how everyone's interacting with each other. So that's kind of my housekeeping. And then the last note, because it always comes up, is yes, this webinar is being recorded today. The slide deck itself will be available within the nonprofit toolkit on the Give Back Tahoe website by end of day today. The recording will be up by end of day tomorrow. It just takes a little bit for Zoom and YouTube to be able to render for us to upload the recording, but at least the slides themselves will be up by end of day today. I think that might be all my housekeeping. I don't know, Dana, if you have anything you want to say before we get started.
No, just welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome, cool. So let's go ahead and get started with our webinar. So today we're talking about fundraising strategies for the Give Back Tahoe giving season. So as a general reminder, which I think most of you probably know, the giving season is running from December 3rd to December 31st, 2024. Registration is still open. So if you are a nonprofit admin who is here to learn a little bit more about the giving event and is getting an inside scoop on some of the functionality available to you, that's fantastic. But don't forget that the most important thing you need to do to really get started is you need to go register yourself on the Give Back Tahoe site. And this is a little screenshot of what the site looks like. You have a big old register button there, so you can't miss it. So make sure you go there, register yourself, because step one is that you need to be approved to participate in the giving event. And then my other little plug that I wanted to give to you all, and I mentioned this earlier, we had a really engaging webinar about 2 weeks ago where we went more in depth on the matches and matches feature. And if you want to be able to watch that, that's currently available in the training library on the Give Back Tahoe site. And so during the kind of webinar today, we're going to pop in and out of both the Give Back Tahoe website and in our demo site, just so that you can see the things I'm talking about live. And you'll hear not once, not twice, probably several times, me refer back to the nonprofit toolkit, because that's really the space where we're working on creating this awesome hub of resources for you to be able to utilize to make sure that you have, only one place you have to remember to go to get resources. So that is just plug number one, but get ready, it's going to happen quite a few times. Before we get started today, I wanted to, and I did this the other day, which was fun. I wanted to launch a quick poll to kind of get an idea of who is in the Zoom webinar with us today. So the first poll that I'm going to launch is about organization participation. So trying to get an idea from you all, if you are a organization who has participated for many years of Give Back Tahoe, one or more, or if you are a brand new organization for Give Back Tahoe. This just kind of helps us as we have the conversation, have a better idea of, again, who is in the Zoom with us, and helps us kind of frame some of the content we're going to chat through. And for those of you who are returning, which is fantastic, while I can't see you through Zoom, I am hoping that throughout our webinar today that you might be, a little chatty in that webinar chat and be able to provide some feedback on some things, that have worked well for you in relation to the content that we're talking about, because while we all want to individually succeed as organizations, what we want to do is really boost your local region, right? And like be able to put your names out in front of donors. And we want everyone to be able to have a successful participation in the giving season. So the more that we can share amongst ourselves, the better we'll all do collectively. So thank you all for participating. It looks like we have about 3 folks that are representing organizations that are participating in Give Back Tahoe for the first time. So welcome. We're excited to have you. And we have about 17 folks who are returning organizations. So thank you for answering that. And then I have one more poll actually that I was going to share with you all. Zoom screens, man, getting in the way. My next poll that I was going to launch is getting an idea actually of who you all are. So as admins, so while I just collected information about if you're a new or a returning organization, what I'm hoping to see now is what are you as an admin? So are you a new admin to your organization? Are you a returning admin? How often your org has participated? Because because your organization is returning doesn't necessarily mean that you are returning. So you might be a new person who will see and hear the information we're presenting today in a different way than someone who might be a returning org. So I'll give you all a second to be able to answer. It looks like we have about 77% have participated. This is a good group. Sometimes I put a poll out there and it's just crickets, and I feel like it's high school all over again, but you all are engaging, which I super appreciate. So we are almost to full. So thank you all for answering. It looks like we have a pretty even split across the board. I was a little bit surprised. So we have 45% of people that have answered are actually part of the returning group for organizations, but you are a new admin for your returning group. So that's fantastic. So it seems like a good chunk of folks that we're talking today are they're new, whether or not your org has participated before. So thank you. This is super helpful. And for those of you who have a returning org and you're a returning admin, you're the ones that really need to get in that chat and share some stories. So I appreciate you all. Answering those questions again kind of just helps us have a better understanding of who we're talking to and kind of frame some of the ways that we're going to talk through some of this content. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is actually matching grants. So I mentioned this a second ago. Our previous webinar that we went through, we talked more about like the concept of matching grants, why they are important, what it can help you do in your fundraising efforts. And we actually had 2 admins from returning organizations for Give Back Tahoe that shared some really awesome and insightful feedback on their experience having matches in their Give Back Tahoe participation in previous years. So if you haven't either attended that webinar or watched the recording, I would really recommend you doing that. It was more of kind of a conversation style. And I think we all had a couple aha moments during that conversation about like, oh, I didn't think about matches like that. Or, oh, I didn't even, think about asking that particular type of donor to do that particular type of thing. It's just, I think everyone who shared had a really unique perspective on how matching grants had helped really amplify their success for the giving event. And so that one was more kind of like, let's talk about the strategy of matching grants. Today, during this little section, we're going to go through actually how to set them up on the platform. So more of the like step 2, right? So you've already bought in and here's how to do it. So you can combine these as you're going back and watching the recordings to get really a full picture of the matching grants tool. So as just kind of a general reminder, we really have found that 84-ish% of donors are more likely to donate to your organization if a match is offered. Because, right, if we think of the psychology behind donating, we always want to know that our dollars are doing more, right? And if I'm a lower capacity donor and I'm at a place where, $10 to $15 is really what I have within my budget and something I feel comfortable with, it's pretty easy for me to talk myself out of making a donation because how far does $10 to $15 go in 2024, right? Like you can't even really go get lunch for that amount of money anymore. But if I'm looking at your organization page and you have a match that is going to double, triple, quadruple, whatever parameters you have set up, if that's going to continue to amplify my donation, I'm automatically like, okay, like my smaller gift that I have capacity to be able to give matters more if I donate to an organization where my money is going to, again, continue to amplify itself. So a lot of psychology behind having matches on your pages and what that can do to incentivize donors to give. But again, today we're going to be talking a little bit more about how do we create them in Mighty Cause and what are some of the settings that are available to you. So first, just kind of talking about how do I create a match. So if you are logged in, so we'll start right, Give Back Tahoe website, the login option in the top right corner of the page. So you want to make sure that you're logged in the correct place. You then click on your name in the top right corner, which exposes your user menu. You click on your organization, that takes you to your organization dashboard. So when I'm on my organization dashboard within the fundraising tools section, I can click on matching grants, and that's where I can go to be able to set up a matching grant. And so I think I alluded to the fact that during the call today, I'm more of a like hands-on learner. So I like to like show you things and not just slides. So I'm going to kind of walk through everything slide and live so you can see where that lives. So again, this is me being in our demo environment. I'm the Animal Humane Society admin. I come over to my fundraising tools, matching grants, and this is the space where I'm going to be able to manage all of my matching grants for Give Back Tahoe giving season. So I can quickly see, which matches are currently live, do I have any that are upcoming, and what has happened in the past, and be able to download some information about those. So for the purposes of today, though, we're talking about setting them up. So the first thing you would just do is push this plus create button here, which opens up kind of the modal to be able to set up your matching grant. With the matching grants feature, you have the ability to add a logo, you can add a title, you can add the match value, and you set the start date and end time for that match as well as picking what match type you want. So the next couple slides are talking a little bit more in detail about each of those kind of options that you have as the matching grants admin. So the type of matching grants that we have here at Mighty Cause are probably our most common is really a one-to-one match. So if you think about me, right, I'm the donor, I donate $10, the match unlocks $10. So you're really just taking a donation and you're spitting that donation back out. That's probably the most common type of kind of dollar for dollar. When you say the phrase matching grants, that's what most people think about. The other type we can support is more of a percentage based. And so this allows you to turn, what would be a one-to-one match into maybe a 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1 match. So you're saying, a donor gives me X and I want to amplify it by how much of a percentage. So if I were to go in and say that I want it to be a 200% match, then we're effectively just doubling every donation that comes through. And then the third that we're going to dive into is what we call a cumulative threshold match. And that is a mouthful every time I have to say it. What my brain thinks about that instead is actually more of like a challenge, right? So with this type of match that we set up, you're more so saying that we aren't going to unlock these dollars until this specific criteria is met. So rather than cumulative threshold match, my brain just says challenge, right? So I'm challenging my donors to either give a certain dollar amount until we unlock this, a certain quantity of donors that have to give, or a certain amount of gifts that need to come through until I unlock those funds. So the first one that we're going to kind of walk through is setting up that percentage-based match. So when we go into that match setup screen, up at the very top, you have the option to set what type of match that you want to be able to set up. So our options that we see here are matching a percentage of each donation. And so I'm going to hop over here into our live site again and come down here. So this is the section we're talking about. If I leave this as it is, that is effectively just going to be a one-to-one match, right? Because you're matching 100% of the donation that comes in. If you wanted to do a 2-to-1 match, a 3-to-1 match, you would just come in here and you would change up the percentage that is there to, let's say, 200, 300, so on and so forth. And so this is the area where you're effectively saying when a donation comes in, this is how much I want my match to be able to amplify that donation by. How that looks when you set up a cumulative threshold match. We have some examples here to be able to show, or a percentage-based match. Here's some examples to be able to show you. So we talked about, right, the ability to add a logo, to add a title for your match. You have the description of your match here, and as well as kind of showing what it's supporting and any conditions that were set on the match. The great thing about the matching grants feature within the Mighty Cause platform is that these are dynamic, right? So as we can see in this screenshot, I, as a donor, can easily look on your page and say, okay, they have a $5,000 match and there is $2,700 $113 left. So it is already working into that donor psychology where it's showing a live kind of feedback for your donors of how much has already been met. And it is also incentivizing the donor to give during this match time because there is this much left in that percentage based or that one-to-one match that you have set up. So again, dynamic, it shows me how much time is left, how much money is left, and then any information that you plug in about that match. And then the next type of match, again, that I call more of like a challenge feature is our cumulative threshold match. And so this is where you can set it up to say, you know, I have this $5,000 gift that I have received for this match, and I'm going to leverage it more so as a cumulative threshold match. So my donors either need to donate the same amount that I have in order for my match to be unlocked, or my donors need to give me a certain amount of donations, or we want to receive a certain amount of unique donors in order to unlock this. I often think that this tool, so this cumulative threshold match, is really useful if you have maybe a goal for Give Back Tahoe. Yes, while it works for a dollar goal, I think it also is a great way to incentivize if you have a donor or a donation goal, right? Because at the end of the day, we want funds, right? Because funds help you to be able to continue supporting your incredible missions in the area. But sometimes you might have a really awesome and robust kind of year-round fundraising that you're doing, and you use Give Back Tahoe as a way to put your name and your organization in front of a new audience that you wouldn't otherwise reach. So maybe you use the Give Back Tahoe giving season as a way to grow your new donors, and you use it as a way to retain new donors and bring in new donors each year. So maybe when you're thinking about your goals for the Give Back Tahoe giving season, you're like, you know, yes, we would love to receive X amount of dollars because that's what, you know, what we're looking at right now in our landscape. But what we really want to see is, let's set a goal of maybe like 50 unique donors or something that you want to have come through. This particular type of match allows you to have, you know, we're only going to release dollars once this thing happens. So you could set this up to say, you know, I want the $5,000 to be released once I get those 50 unique donors. Or, you know, the giving season is long. Maybe you have two different match sponsors, and for the first 2 weeks of the challenge, you have a match that's running and you say, we'll unlock it once we receive 25 unique donors. And the next one is once we receive our additional 25 unique donors. So you don't have to kind of play it all in one. You can create multiple matches that run concurrently, or you can have them running consecutively so that they kind of run into each other like a waterfall. But I think sometimes this type of match gets overlooked because it just seems it's not really your most intuitive match. But I think if you have a different kind of goal, so a gift goal, a donor goal, this is a really great way to incentivize your supporting community to help you reach something that's not just a dollar goal. And to show you what those look like. So this first example is if we were to have it unlock once a certain amount of dollars is received. And so again, pretty similar to that first match that we showed you all, but instead this kind of metric here changes. So this easily shows your supporters that you have a $10,000 limit and you need to be able to reach that in order to unlock. So I can see right now that $57 has been donated and we need to get to 10,000 in order to unlock this particular cumulative threshold match. Similarly, we have the one that is built around the amount of donations that come through. And I think sometimes we get a little confused with the language of donation versus donor. So important to note that when we're thinking about a donation, we're thinking about just like a gift, right? So one donor who donates twice during a period would be two donations. So, you know, if I give to your organization two $10 gifts, that counts as two gifts. So if you have more of a donation goal, this would be a great way to be able to set that up. And so we can see here, right, 25 donations of 25 donations came through. And so this was unlocked. So signifying to everyone that the match was met. And then similarly, we can have one that is just based off of unique donors. So this is the situation where I might give to your organization two separate times during a 5-hour period, but I only count as one unique donor because I am only one person. So when we're thinking about what our goals are and how we can leverage this tool to be able to help us get there, I think we just need to make sure that we have a good base understanding of the definition between what is considered a gift on the platform and what is considered a unique donor. So gift is really anytime anybody gives is considered a gift, whereas the donor count is going to be a unique donor who gives kind of based off of their email address. And then very similar look again, showing you that 31 donors out of the 50 in order to get themselves unlocked. So some of the conditions that we have when you're setting up your match. So obviously, like step one is just deciding what type of match you want to use. Are you doing the 1-to-1? Are you doing more of a percentage base? So 2-to-1, 3-to-1, or are you leveraging this cumulative threshold type of setup? So that's kind of step one. And then step two is going through the conditions of that match to decide how and when should this match apply. So some options that you have available to you as the admin who is setting up this match is you can decide whether or not to set a minimum donation amount before the match is applied. So if you are, maybe you've participated in a Give Back Tahoe before, maybe you have had matches before, and part of your feedback is like, yeah, we had a match and it certainly incentivized donors to give, but my match just like went through so quickly, right? Like maybe you were hoping that it was going to last longer during the giving season, but it was used up in like 2 or 3 days because your donors are awesome. And of course you're excited about it, but you're like, that was supposed to last longer, right? That was supposed to incentivize more people. Something that you could do is you could use this setting to set a minimum per donation amount, which effectively means that this match won't be triggered until donors give a certain gift level or more. So two things that does, right? One, that kind of helps slow down the pace of how this match is used because it might not be activated by every donor that gives. But two, it's also a good way to kind of boost the average gift amount that your donors are giving during this period, because if they are being incentivized to give a certain amount in order to unlock their match, then they're automatically giving that higher amount. So I think this two different ways to think of this, right? So you're either trying to slow down that match, and or maybe you are trying to actually raise the average gift that is given to your org, because again, that will translate into more dollars received by your organization too. So this setting can kind of be thought about in two different ways for its benefit. The next one that we have is whether or not you would like any offline donations to be activated if you want them to activate the match. And then we have to include organization fundraisers in the match. So I think this one is important. If you are an organization that either utilizes the Mighty Cause fundraising feature as like a way to highlight internal campaigns, and or you use the fundraiser feature for peer-to-peer fundraisers to help really promote your page, you'll need to decide whether or not you want donations that come into those more like supplementary pages to count towards your match. For most of you, well, actually, it depends. I'm not sure how many of you, I don't think we've had a ton of folks that have utilized peer-to-peer fundraising in the past. So I would say that if peer-to-peer fundraising isn't a huge component of your Give Back Tahoe strategy, it probably wouldn't hurt to leave this box checked, because it just means that those donations will help count towards your match. However, if you are one of those rock star organizations that is able to do it all, and we look to you as our guiding beacon of success, and you have a ton of peer-to-peer fundraisers, perhaps you want to leave this unchecked because you don't want that match to be used up so fast by donations that are coming in all of these various places. So that's really kind of an opinion question based off of what your unique circumstances are and what tools that you're leveraging for Give Back Tahoe giving season. And then our last one that we have here is the ability to apply the match once per donor. So similarly to the psychology that we had up here above to like being able to slow down a match, this would mean that if a donor gave twice, let's say your match is active from like noon to 4 p.m. If a donor gave twice during that time and this was checked, only that first donation they gave would actually activate the match. And so one, right, this can be utilized to slow down your match and allow it to last longer. But two, another really great way to incentivize getting your unique donor count to be up too, right? So if your goal at the end of the day is unique donor count, then maybe, you can leverage that cumulative threshold match we talked about. Or if you want it to just be a standard match where money is released once money comes in, this might be a great tool for you, because it means that it will only be applied once for a new donor that comes in. So again, two really great ways to be able to think about your goal and be able to reach it using this match feature that we have. And the last thing we have here is an email field. And so if you put your email in here, this is what will notify you once the match has been depleted. So it will let you know that the match has been depleted. And then some additional settings that we have are being able to decide whether or not you want your match values included in your page metrics. So if your matching sponsor says, yes, I'm going to give you $5,000 for this match for the Give Back Tahoe giving season. And my plan is to make that $5,000 donation online via the Give Back Tahoe website. Then you would want to make sure that the match itself isn't included in your page metrics, because effectively you're already receiving those gifts online. It's going to count towards your totals, and you wouldn't want to double count your match within those totals. By having this checked, you would say, okay, this $5,000 online donation increases my totals, but also my match increases by 5,000. And then at the end of the day, you would look at your reporting and be like, why are we off? And it would be because you have double counted that match. So just think to yourself, if my match sponsor is giving me the donation online via Give Back Tahoe, I want to uncheck this box. On the other side, you might have a match sponsor who wants to give you $5,000, but they're like me and their credit card is not going to make a $5,000 donation. And so they're like, I need to give you this money via check. And so if money comes to you from your match sponsor outside of the Mighty Cause / Give Back Tahoe platform, then you would want to leave this button checked, because that's the only way that we're really going to be able to see the totals of your match counted towards your organization totals. And if you actually are on the match setup in here, and we come in here and we hover over this checkbox that says include match value in page metrics, it tells you exactly what I just explained to you. So if you find yourself going through the setup process for your match and you can't remember what we just talked about, we have just a really helpful tool here that reminds you, if this, then check it. If not, then uncheck that box. So just wanted to call attention to that, because I think sometimes that can be a little bit of a point of confusion. And in some of my giving events that I have helped with, I've seen some confusion when it comes to reconciliation on org's behalf. And often it's because they have either double counted or not counted something they needed to. So this is an important setting to just be aware of as you're setting up your match. And then one of the most important ones, of course, is setting the start date and time for your match. So you can actually, if you have gotten ahead of the game, which is fantastic, kudos to you. If you have already secured funds from a sponsor for a match, you can go in and set up the match right now through the Mighty Cause / Give Back Tahoe platform. Using this start and end time is what allows you to set it up today, but not have it be activated until Give Back Tahoe giving season actually starts. So we'll just want to make sure that when we set up these matches, we're scoping them to start during Give Back Tahoe, so 12/3 at your 12 a.m., and then running until you want those to close. So for those of you who, you might secure one match for the Give Back Tahoe giving season, it's possible that you would set your start date as day 1, your end date as the last day, and then that is done. If you are an organization who anticipates that you are going to get sponsorship for more than one match, you might set your start date to this date and then your end date to a specific time, and then activate your next one at another time. So you can kind of utilize these fields in whatever way makes sense based off of the amount of matches that you are anticipating having. I do want to mention, and on this next slide, we have a way to actually queue matches to start after another one has unlocked. So if you are an organization that says, we have 2 matching sponsors, we don't want them to run at the same time, because we want to actually extend the amount of time we have a match active during Give Back Tahoe giving season, then you would set up match number 1 to start on 12/3 and end, let's say, on 12/31. And then when you go in to set up your second match, you see this box here where it says queue this grant to begin immediately after another grant completes. You would check that box, which allows you to select which match you want this one to start after. So let's say match 1 is a $500 match. We have it set up to start on December 3. When I'm setting up match number 2, my $1,000 match, I say, okay, I want to queue this so it starts after match 1. And so what that means is that you, as the admin, doesn't have to sit on your computer every day watching how your match is going, waiting for it to deplete, and then activating the second one. The platform is automatically taking control of that for you, and it is noting that as soon as this one is depleted, this one is going to kick in. So this is a really helpful tool for those of you who might be managing multiple matches throughout the season and you don't want them to be running at the same time. Just queue them to start after the next one, and that way you can really kind of set it and forget it. And then I think the last thing to note, and we talked about this a little bit in our last webinar, is just where do your matching grants display once they are set up? So once you create the matching grant and once it is active, it will show in 3 different locations. So location number 1 is it shows directly on your donate button. So there's no way for a donor to land on your organization page and claim that they didn't know that you had a match active, because there's a big, nice little banner tag that sits on your donate button, letting them know that there's a match active on your page. Location 2 is that you have a section on your organization page where any active matches that you have that are currently live are going to be displayed by default. Section 3 is that in the search feature, there's actually a way for donors to be able to set a filter to only look at organizations who have matches active at that time when they're looking to give their donation. So, we're obviously asking you as the admin to go out and talk to sponsors and be able to get sponsors for your match. You go in and you set up that match, but once that is all set, the platform is doing the work for you to really be able to advertise on Give Back Tahoe website that you have a match that is up and active. Obviously, we encourage you as the nonprofit admin to take that a step further and make sure that in any of your email outreach or your social media posts that you're doing, that you're making sure that your donors know that you have a match, they know when it's active, and they know what you're asking them to do in order to activate it. But just wanted to reiterate that the platform is also doing some work for you to make sure that that is advertised correctly to any user traffic that's on the Give Back Tahoe website. And so we have a couple frequently asked questions about the matching grants feature. So does the matching grant have to be processed online? No, and we had just, we talked about that little checkbox in the previous kind of setup screen that we went through. You can collect those dollars offline via whatever method you need to. You just need to make sure when we set up that match that you have that checkbox checked correctly, so we know whether or not to count the matching totals in your overall totals. If it's easier for your donors to give offline, fantastic. That's why we built the tool to be able to accommodate donors, match sponsors who give online or offline. So both of those are up to you. Really, the thing you need to do is just make sure that you have that match set up correctly. And we will draw attention here too that if a community foundation fund holder donates to your organization offline through Give Back Tahoe, the team will make sure that it is funneled through the Give Back Tahoe website to count towards your match. So that's something that they're going to take care of for you and not something that you need to, follow up with or be able to do. And of course, if you have any questions, reaching out to the Give Back Tahoe team, they'd be happy to clarify for you. Question, do donations made on peer-to-peer or fundraising pages count towards this match? Again, we covered this, right? This is totally up to you. There's that checkbox in the match setup where you can decide whether or not donations made to nested fundraiser pages activate that match or not. So just something to be aware of. And then 2 more questions. So we have, can more than one matching grant be active at the same time? Yes. So most of our conversation today, we talked about kind of separating our matches, right? And using them to extend the length of matches throughout the Give Back Tahoe giving season. But if your strategy is that you want to run more than one match at the same time because you want to kind of double, triple, quadruple the amount that's being unlocked when a donation is received, you are more than welcome to do that. When you set up match number 1, you do that the normal way. When you set up match number 2, you'll just want to uncheck that box because you don't want it to be queued after another match. You actually want it to run at the same time as match number 1. So I would just say the most important thing to note, and it's probably obvious, but if you are running 2 matches at the same time, that just means if I made a $10 donation to your organization, I would activate match 1 and match 2. So you'll just see them kind of depleting a little bit faster because one donation is going to trigger both of them instead of triggering one and then having the other become active once match number 1 is unlocked. So there's nothing necessarily wrong with running them at the same time versus running them separated. It really is just determining your strategy before you go in and get everything set up to make sure that you are incentivizing and kind of gamifying based off of what your end goal is for Give Back Tahoe. And then, worst case scenario, oh no, I have entered it in wrong. What do I do? The great thing about matching grants on Mighty Cause is that they really are more there for display, right? It helps to show donors that you have these funds and it helps to incentivize them to give more. You have the ability to go in and make adjustments to a match when it is active. Or if you set it up and it's not active yet, you can actually just go in and delete it and then start a new one. Worst case scenario, if you find yourself feeling very turned around and not knowing how to fix what has happened, if you write into our support team at support@mightycause.com, our team is more than happy to hop onto the back of your page and show you what our recommended next steps are to be able to get everything sorted the way that you need them to. So just know that our team is always here to be able to help if you need. But that's kind of matching grants in a nutshell. Again, we kind of did part one in our first webinar about the psychology behind it, part two today about how to set them up. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to use that Q&A feature. I'd be more than happy to kind of come back and talk a little bit more about matching grants if you have any questions. Uh, so I think without further ado, we will move into part two of our webinar where we're talking a little bit about peer-to-peer fundraising. So, the theme of today is thinking about fundraising tools to be able to really amplify your success during the length of the Give Back Tahoe giving season. So obviously, step number one, matches, right? We see a lot of success from organizations that have the time and capacity and resources to be able to leverage those larger sponsored donations as matches, because that incentivizes donors to give because those donations are continue to be impacted, right? The other feature that we see a lot of success with is peer-to-peer fundraising. So what is peer-to-peer fundraising? Peer-to-peer fundraising is the ability for your supporter to come to your organization page on Give Back Tahoe. They click a fundraise button. They create a little mini page of their own where they have their own URL. They have their own goal for how much they hope to fundraise for you. They can put their own story about why they feel so closely tied to your organization and want to utilize their time and effort to fundraise on your behalf. And then at the end, they have this nice little page with their own unique URL that they can share out with their network via social media, via email, via text, whatever way they want to. And it allows them to be able to really spread the word about your organization and helps to reach new pockets of the community that your organization might not have reached on your own, right? So I'm just thinking, I always use this example because it is the most true thing ever. If I were to fall in love with an organization and I create a peer-to-peer fundraising page, and if I put that on my Facebook, you best believe that in like minutes, my grandma, my great aunt, my cousins, my friends would all be donating to that page because we all care about each other and we believe in the causes that everybody supports. And so it really is a great way for your supporters to be able to reach audiences that may never have known that your organization ever existed. And again, it's a free feature. It's available to you as a participant in Give Back Tahoe. Doesn't take a lot of time and effort on your part as an administrator to be able to utilize successfully. And we're going to talk just a little bit about it kind of higher level today. So why would supporters be interested in being a peer-to-peer fundraiser? Again, I kind of talked about it. It allows you to deepen that relationship with your organization. So when we talk about who we recruit as peer-to-peer fundraisers, a lot of times we're thinking about your board members, your volunteers, your higher capacity donors, or even your repeat donors of lower capacity. You're looking at people that are already connected to your organization that have proven in some way that they have a relationship that they intend to continue with your organization, and that you can kind of cultivate into supporting you in a different way. So if I'm willing to give you $50 every Give Back Tahoe, I'm more than likely willing to quickly create a page and share it with my friends to try to get you more donations, because I don't have to pay money to be your peer-to-peer fundraiser. I just have to create a page and share it amongst my network, right? So it really is kind of a great way to take a relationship and continue to invest in and build and give them, again, another touch point with your organization. I think I really talked about everything that was on that page. that just came from the heart. That's how I felt about peer-to-peer fundraisers. And so recruiting your peer-to-peer fundraisers. And so I talked about this a little bit, but I think if you are, if you've never utilized the peer-to-peer fundraising feature in the past and you're a little bit like, I'm not really sure if I buy into it. I'm not really sure what it looks like. I'm not really sure how successful I could be. We've heard from a lot of organizations that are in the same boat as you with those same thoughts that they've tested this out actually on their board members or their staff members, because you're not really going to lose a board member or staff member like if they don't love the experience they had, right? And these are already people that are like highly invested in your organization. They have to be, because they're paid to be in your organization, or they're already at that board level and they already have that level of buy-in. And usually people sitting at that level have more connections in your community than other people might as well, because your board members are likely board members of other orgs and they likely work for other organizations. And so they have touch points in the community that extend beyond maybe where your organization is reaching right now. And so I would say probably focusing on, right, board members, staff members, and even like your family and your volunteers. So just looking kind of in your internal circle. To, again, recruit them, I think the best thing to do is really making it easy. So within the your organization page for Give Back Tahoe, you have the ability to actually create a template for your peer-to-peer fundraisers to be able to use when they click the fundraise button. So that way they don't start from scratch on their fundraiser pages. And then also, making sure that they know exactly how you want them to advertise their peer-to-peer fundraiser page. So maybe you put together like a couple quick like Instagram posts, like content ideas, right? We were like, actually, if you want to just create your page and like, here's the language I already have for you, like feel free to post it. The same way that the Give Back Tahoe team and I have been working to create resources for you as an organization so that you don't have to slow down and create from scratch. If you take that same approach to your peer-to-peer fundraisers, it just takes away one of those hurdles for them to be able to sign themselves up and promote your organization. So again, just making it as easy as possible for them. And then the last little nudge that we're going to have here about peer-to-peer fundraising is that we do also have the ability on the Mighty Cause platform to support team fundraising. So if you have utilized peer-to-peer fundraising in the past, or this might be the first year that you're looking to do it and you just know you're already going to like hit the ball out of the park on this, team fundraising might be something to look into. It allows multiple fundraisers to be part of a team and then shows what those fundraisers are doing like as a collective. So here in this example, we can see, Beth, Tom, Lisa, Amy, and John have a team fundraiser, and they're the board for the Animal Humane Society. And here I can see how much my board has collectively raised. And I think one really big benefit of peer-to-peer fundraising, in addition, right, to just like sharing and reaching a network that your organization might not have reached on their own, is that it also, I think, gives some, I want to say like validity. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but as someone that cares about your organization and is willing to help fundraise on your behalf, having my own little page that shows me like $5,000 came to your organization because of the efforts that I did just continues, right, to motivate me as your supporter to keep sharing that page, because I feel like me creating a page and sharing it has had an impact on the overall dollars raised for your organization, right? So rather than just taking your org page and sharing it and having people donate, which I have no way to know how many people that I know clicked on it, donated, creating a peer-to-peer fundraiser page allows me to track any activity that came through my page. I can see who has given, I can see how much they've donated. So again, just really helps to like incentivize and spur that supporter to support you and to take the time and effort to really be able to spread the word about your organization. And we didn't do as much of like a super deep dive into P2P this time, but we do have, and we will continue to build out the nonprofit toolkit with more resources about this topic. So if you're sitting here today and you're like, I think peer-to-peer fundraising might be really helpful for my org. And if you're not finding the resources you're looking for, again, we encourage you, reach out to the Mighty Cause team at support.mightycause.com. Or if you need to reach out to the Give Back Tahoe team, we don't know what questions to answer until we get the questions, right? And so if you're looking to invest or you're looking to explore new functionality and you are just thinking there might be one or two questions you have or some resources that you need to have access to, reach out to our team and we'll be more than happy to put those together for you. And I know that we're kind of getting a little bit close on time. Dana, I want to make sure you have a chance to be able to go through your section. Do we want to skip over to your section? Then if needed, we can kind of hop backwards into kind of some of the marketing stuff. I know that, again, some of the things we're talking about here in the marketing and promotion area is really driving you, again, to the nonprofit toolkit on the Give Back Tahoe website, where we have this 5 steps to fundraising success. And over here in Spread the Word, we have some sample social media messages and things for you to be able to pull from. We have some sample timelines in here for you to be able to look at what should I be doing right now as I lead up to Give Back Tahoe? What should I be doing while it's happening? So a lot of the content in my section is kind of just like reiterating what's here on the nonprofit toolkit. So if you would like, I can kind of skip through some of my slides, and if we have time, we can come back and hit on a few pieces if that works for you.
Yeah, that works for me.
Awesome, cool.
Sounds
So
great.
don't want to make anybody dizzy as we go through, but again, all of these will be available on the site at the end of the day today, by end of day. So if there's anything we kind of skipped through right now, you'll be able to read through that a little bit later.
And yeah, as Natalie mentioned, we're doing our best to really build out a robust tool in that nonprofit toolkit. So we highly recommend, if you haven't already perused it, we've also added some things to it in the past week, so there might be new content there. So I'm going to share some detail about SMART goals and why we believe they are critical to fundraising success. We'll also talk a little bit about donor retention and some other things. But we highly recommend using the SMART goal filter and during your goal setting process to set meaningful and achievable goals that really create a successful and sustainable campaign. It's important to aim for aspirations that resonate with your organization's values and mission. And goals really should be ambitious, but within reach, and taking into account your team size and current resources, as well as your donor capacity. So using data from past GBT cycles really offers valuable insights to building these types of goals. And we recommend using the Mighty Cause reporting tools. Natalie kind of already shared some of those tools that are available, but those can really help take a look at what worked in past campaigns, what saw the most engagement, and that can really help pinpoint realistic targets. That sort of data can also help give confidence to stretch a little further each year and building on those past achievements without overextending. So for example, if let's say your organization raised $15,000 last year, maybe a 10 to 15% increase in that total might be a good stretch goal to set. So it's important to remember that fundraising, as well as also we kind of talked about this with the different types of matches that can be built. But it's important to remember that those goals, non-monetary goals, are just as important as monetary goals. They can help raise awareness, increase engagement, and grow that community that's invested in your mission. So some examples to consider are securing your first matching grant. They can also, you can also retain a certain number of donors. We'll talk a little bit about that. And also you can even consider increasing one-time gift size. Those are all useful goals that can be set within your campaign. So within our examples here that we've shared, you'll notice that the difference between these two sets of goals is between the SMART and kind of not so SMART goals, that the SMART goals are specific, they're measurable, and they're focused. We know exactly what we want to achieve with these goals, and they also provide accountability to help track progress. So while raising money definitely is the overall goal, it's really too vague to inspire any type of focused action. And a SMART goal like raising an additional $5,000 can provide direction. It makes it much easier to communicate success to your team and to your supporters, which is crucial for maintaining enthusiasm and momentum throughout the campaign. So we also recommend taking a look at the option of building in mini goals to your campaign. They can help create a path and make the overall fundraising goal seem much more achievable than a big goal of aiming for a large number of a donation amount. So mini goals are really like checkpoints along the way that can be celebrated as small wins, and they can keep donors engaged throughout the fundraising journey. For example, if an ultimate goal is raising $10,000 at the end of the Give Back Tahoe campaign, it could be broken down into smaller targets of $2,500 each week. And this structure keeps everyone, all your stakeholders motivated, and it allows for regular updates and provides a tangible way to track your progress. And
Think that ties really nicely, and sorry to jump in, but I think that ties really nicely back into, right, the matching grants feature that we talked about. Because
exactly.
if we're setting this large goal and then we're backtracking to say, okay, if I'm going to reach this, then what does each week look like for me? Setting
Yeah.
a match that runs, if you have, again, the time and capacity and resources to be able to get multiple matches, then you can utilize that match feature each week to boost those donations. Or, right, that cumulative threshold ability to be able to say, we're not unlocking these funds until we get to maybe $2,500 in week one, $2,500 in week two. So again, a way to really like take this large end goal and break it up into like smaller, smarter goals.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Natalie. Yeah. And also I mentioned in the chat, like that creates kind of that time-bound restriction, which it can create urgency around each target and get supporters to rally behind it, trying to reach each mini goal along the way. So those can also be a really powerful tool, and just easy to communicate out, returning that information back to supporters, sharing more concrete updates along the way as the campaign progresses. Let's see, you can go to the next slide. Yeah. So yeah, we also wanted to take a moment to talk about donor retention. I was personally really surprised to learn that nationwide, less than half of donors typically return. And so retaining even a small percentage of donors can really maintain momentum. It can reduce the time and cost of acquiring new donors, and it can build a really stable base of support to rely on. So past donors already know your mission, they already know your organization, and they've already been convinced to contribute to it. So making them so they are highly receptive to donate again. So reaching out directly to them can offer a personalized connection, and it can really be a strategic way to boost your results without needing to start from scratch. And also repeat donors are actually more likely to increase the amount that they've donated over time. So if a donor contributed to your campaign in 22 or 23, it's likely that their amount that they're willing to contribute this year will increase. So we highly recommend setting a concrete donor retention goal, like retaining 40% of past donors, and integrating that retention into your overall event goals really builds lasting relationships and expands the focus from just focusing on just those one-time contributions, and really thinks about the long-term goals of building sustainability into your campaign. And luckily, Mighty Cause has a really, really useful tool for making donor retention easy. You can use this donor retention report to pull and track and understand your retention metrics and get a snapshot of which donors are coming back, and also identify which donors might need more engagement, and that will allow you to create a more personalized retention strategy along the way.
And you can download the results of this report too, which I think are super helpful, because then you can use that obviously to help with like the email outreach to those donors. So I think the only other thing to note is, clearly, if you are a new organization participating in Give Back Tahoe, this donor retention report won't be as useful for you this year, just because this is looking at donors that have given through the Give Back Tahoe website. So obviously it's not looking at like your retention at large for your donors, but the Mighty Cause one is helpful. But you can still, right, do the same thing with your own donor base to be able to see like who hasn't given to you yet in more of your year-round fundraising efforts, and drive them to the Give Back Tahoe website to be able to give as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And something that can be useful for setting those mini goals, as well as just getting an idea of where to start. We have this really useful timeline tool available. So, speaking of the nonprofit toolkit, we've built in recommendations for week by weeks, from steps to take, goals to consider. There's even pro tips built in here. If you haven't already taken a look at this timeline, we recommend doing so. It can help kind of build the to-do list for your own campaign. And additional resources on that nonprofit toolkit, if you want to go ahead, there's lots you can find there. The links to this and the previous webinar will be there. We're also planning on building out some shorter tools to share, some shorter recordings to be able to check in on. As Natalie shared, there's email templates to use. We've added some digital assets like logos that can be downloaded to be used on social media or any type of collateral that you build for your campaign. That campaign timeline that I mentioned. And if you want to go to the next slide, Natalie, I'm excited to announce that we also will be hosting nonprofit hours in the month of November on Tuesdays from 10 to 11 a.m. So the link to that I'm going to add to the chat, but it's also available in the nonprofit toolkit. And there'll be two of us from TTCF available to meet with during that time. We have windows of about 15 minutes at a time. If you need more time, we can obviously connect a little bit longer, but we're here for you guys. We're here to answer questions. We're eager to support any questions or advice that you might be looking for around your specific campaign. So we encourage you to sign up for those times, or you can always, of course, reach out to us over email at givebacktahoo@ttcf.net. And of course, Mighty Cause is here to support. Natalie and the support team are just a wealth of information. I've shared their resource library in the chat here. It's also connected in that nonprofit toolkit. I guess any info to add here, Natalie?
Yeah. No, I think that is totally true. I think, feel free, reach out to our support team. We have the support@mightycause.com. We have also phone support. Our team is available. So we're on the East Coast. So we are 9 to 5 p.m. Eastern on business days. And then I would just say, we are more than happy to answer all types of questions. If you're considering like you have a question, you're like, what team to go to? Our team, we will answer anything. And if we don't know the answer, really that's me just like bugging the Community Foundation team to get an answer and get it back to you. But if you're thinking kind of about the two separate teams, right? Our team, we work on the technology platform, right? So like anything when it comes to setting up your page, setting up your matches, how to use peer-to-peer fundraisers, really anything that's tech-based, our team is going to have the answer for you and we're going to have it fast. Anything that's more kind of on the lines of like the strategy of Give Back Tahoe or something more that you would connect with a Community Foundation team might be a bit faster to go through them, but if not, again, our team is here. And if we have to just kind of play a game of telephone to get an answer back to you, we are more than happy to do that because the end goal at the end of the day is we want you all to be supported. We want you to have your questions answered, and we want to make sure that you have every resource you need to be able to be successful for the upcoming giving season. So I think that might be the end. And I know that we got there and we got there fast. So I appreciate everyone who kind of stuck on board with us today, talked about these fundraising techniques that we have. Again, the recording will be available by end of day tomorrow, slide deck by end of day today. But we do have a couple minutes to kind of sit here. If anybody has any specific questions that you want to write into us in that Q&A feature, we're more than happy to be able to answer them.